Hello everyone, welcome to Jumbo IS. So today will be the 7th day of geography MCQs and today's topic will be oceanography. So all the MCQs related to any topic and subtopics of oceanography will be covered in this chapter, and I also hope that you already have studied the notes which we have shared with you guys in advance. So let's start with the MCQ number 1. We'll see also that how MCQs can be formed from a particular topic or subtopic. So let's start with the first MCQ. First MCQ says what? Consider the following statements regarding the hydrological cycle. It is also known as water cycle as well. Okay, so first of all, it is a closed system where water is neither created nor destroyed but only changes its form. Yes, whenever we say that this is the water liquid and during evaporation it changes its form, it converts into vapor, and ultimately these vapors are going in the upper atmosphere and create and forming the different clouds. So what is basically the cloud is the presence of water liquid if the temperature of dew point is more than 0 degrees Celsius, then this the cloud will do the rainfall. But if the dew point, the temperature at which relative humidity becomes 100%, if it is less than 0 degrees Celsius, then it will form snowfall. So yes, water liquid can change its form from liquid to vapor, then vapor to liquid, and ultimately vapor to the ice form. Okay, so yes, it's a closed system, and water is neither created nor destroyed, but it is changing only its form. Statement number 1 is correct. The largest reservoir of the fresh water is found in groundwater, exceeding that of ice caps and glaciers. If we say that the whole earth is divided into water and liquid, so earth has 70% water and 30% land area. In this whole water system, there is 96.5 percentage of saline water and only 3.5 percentage is the fresh water. Okay, so within this fresh water, what happens is within this fresh water, around 68.7 percentage is in the form of ice caps and glaciers, and only 30% is the present in the form of groundwater. Yes, it is fresh water. It can be used for drinking purposes, for irrigation purposes, and as such other purposes as well. Okay, so yes, largest reservoir of fresh water is not in the groundwater, but it is in the ice caps, around 68.7 percentage of total fresh water, and not the total water volume. Because in this fresh water, we are only considering this 3.5 percentage and not the 96.5 percentage of saline water which is present in the oceans. Okay, so statement number 2 is wrong. Sublimation is the process in the cycle where water moves directly from the solid phase to the gaseous phase. If it is converting from gaseous to ultimately solid and solid to ultimately gaseous, both processes are basically known as your sublimation. So statement number 1 and 3 is correct. So answer will be your option C. And why statement number B is incorrect, that we should know. Next is with reference to continental shelf. Which of the following statements are correct? If this is land area and this is your water area, so this area is known as continental shelf with a very less slope, around 2 degree to 5 degree angle is there. So it is a geologically most active part of ocean floor, characterized by the deep seated earthquakes. Continental shelf is not related with the earthquakes, as mid oceanic ridges are responsible for the earthquake, because in this area plates are diverging away from each other, and also if plates are converging with each other, then this will be, let's just make a diagram. This will be the diagram. This is your continental shelf, this is your slope, and ultimately if convergence is there, then it will be the trenches form will be the maximum portion where earthquakes are originating. Okay, so neither divergence nor convergence has multiple earthquakes in the continental shelf, because neither convergence nor divergence is basically happening at that place. So statement number 1 is wrong. It serves as the primary source for the world's fossil fuel reserves due to massive sedimentary deposits. This statement is right, because the slope is not that much that it is possible that deposition is there of all the dead organisms, dead plants, dead trees, and etc. So statement number 2 is right. Its width is uniform across all continents, average averaging approximately 80 kilometer. It is not uniform for all the continents. Even in India, if we say that in the western coast of area, the size of continental shelf is more than in the western coast, and it is less in the eastern coast area. So it is not uniform for all the continents. Okay, so the statement number 3 is also wrong. So if 1 and 3 are wrong, select the correct answer. So option should be A, 2 only. Next is arrange the following maritime zones in increasing order of coastal states, sovereignty and jurisdiction. We know that from baseline to up to 12 nautical miles, there will be territorial waters where any country's sovereignty and jurisdiction is of utmost priority and it is highest in nature. Above, beyond 12 nautical mile to 24 nautical mile, we have contiguous zone, which is again contiguous to the territorial waters. And from the baseline to ultimately 200 nautical miles, we have exclusive economic zone. So these waters are of a particular state, of a particular country. And beyond that 200 nautical mile, there will be the high seas or international waters where countries and states jurisdiction cease to exist. Okay, so if we compare any territorial waters, contiguous zone and EEZ, we say that more powers are with the state in terms of territorial waters, then contiguous zones, and then exclusive economic zones. Okay, so the answer will be your increasing order. So 1, 3 and 2. So answer will be your option B. Okay, so these 12 nautical mile, 24 nautical mile and 200 nautical mile term should be very clear. These are identified by United Nations Convention on the Law of Sea, which was a convention signed in 1982, which established an international seabed authority which was responsible for this identification of different territorial waters, contiguous zones and EEZs. Okay, so option B is your answer. Next, we have the thermocline layer of the ocean is absent in which of the following regions? If we say that this is the sea surface and this is your sea floor, we know that up to 600 meters or 200 meters, there will be the presence of sunlight. So up to 200 meters, sorry, up to 200 of meters, there will be a kind of a very high intensity of insolation, and that is why this water will be warm enough. But as the intensity of insolation decreases, the temperature decreases rapidly. So this is the layer. Up to 600 meter, the temperature is decreasing slightly in a moderate manner. But beyond 600 meter, because there is no sunlight, this zone is called aphotic zone. The temperature drastically decreases. And this layer, thermocline, is the layer below which the temperature decreases very rapidly, and ultimately it becomes very constant as it moves towards the deep sea. Okay, so normally an ocean should have three layers. One is your photic zone layer, then we have thermocline layer, and ultimately we have this deep sea where the temperature of water is constant around 5 degrees Celsius. So tropical regions has that. Yes, mid latitude during summer season is responsible for the formation of three layers. But Arctic and Antarctic circles, the water present there having only two layers, because generally the temperature of sea surface is already 5 degrees Celsius, or you can say that it is only 9 or 10 degrees Celsius. So beyond 10 degrees Celsius, the water is kind of the temperature of water is kind of decreasing, not in a very rapid manner but in moderate manner. So thermocline layer is absent in these areas, basically in mid latitude during winters, and your Arctic and Antarctic circle, the oceans present there. Okay, so why it is so? Because the temperature is constant or kind of moderately decreasing as it moves from sea surface to the sea floor. Sea floor across all the oceans, across all the areas, have temperature around 4 degrees Celsius to 5 degrees Celsius. So it is just constant. So in the tropical area at the sea surface, it has 25 degrees Celsius temperature, 20 degrees Celsius temperature. So from 25 it has 20 degrees Celsius now. Then ultimately 22 it is decreasing by 8 degrees Celsius to 80 degrees Celsius, and then becoming 5 degrees Celsius at the deep sea. But it is not the case in Arctic and Antarctic circles. Okay, so the option C will be your answer. Next is, which of the following factors is responsible for longitudinal variations in the ocean surface temperature? If we say that this is the Atlantic Ocean, if temperature here is more or temperature here is cold and vice versa, so why it is so? So why temperature variation is there? Latitude is the temperature, is the difference, is the factor? No, because these are present at the same latitude. Prevailing winds can be trade winds, winds can be westerlies, or winds can be your polar easterlies. So we know that as the water moves, it increases its temperature, it gains more energy. So if we talk about the trade winds, then ultimately the water is carried by carried from east direction to ultimately west direction. So it this area will have kind of lower temperature and this area will have kind of higher temperature of the ocean water. Okay, so if we talk about westerlies, then water is going from west to east direction. So this area will have low temperature and this area will have slightly higher temperature because it has moved to a different two different directions and ultimately to a different length. So yes, it can be the answer. Continental shelf width. Shelf width does not have any relation with the increase in the temperature of ocean water, even if we are talking about longitudinal. Submarine canyons, no, there is no relation with this. So the answer should be a prevailing winds. The prevailing winds can be trade winds, the local winds, the westerlies as well. Okay, so if we talk about latitudinal difference in the temperature, okay, then we'll talk about the density. Okay, so then we'll talk about the solar heating. And if we talk about longitudinal, the difference between east and west direction and not north and south, the deep sea water, then we are just talking about prevailing winds. So answer B is your, the option B is your answer. Next is, consider the following pairs of ocean relief features and their descriptions. Guyot's, pointed volcanic peaks that do not reach surface. These are called sea mount. Pointed volcanic peaks are called sea mount and they are basically below the water level. If they are beyond the water level, then they will be called volcanic islands. So Guyot is seamount is flat-topped submerged mountain showing evidence of subsidence. The answer is no. Both these are swapped or interchanged with each other because Guyots are basically called the plateau on the ocean floor. So submarine canyons, deep valley cuts across shelves and slopes, often at river mouths. Yes, it is basically submarine canyons. If we talk about that, this is your any river going from land area to ultimately ocean area. It is going towards the water, towards the ocean water, and creating a kind of canyon or gorge or valley. So that is basically your submarine canyons. So it is generally present at the mouth of river because at the mouth of river has a very kind of a very high amount of water, and as it moves to the ocean area, it will cut the surface and will create different valleys as it is forming in the youth stage of its course. Okay, so yes, statement number third is also correct. So option B is the answer because 1 and 2 are interchanged with each other. Next is, why does the Mediterranean Sea record higher salinity compared to the open Atlantic Ocean? Mediterranean Sea is your closed ocean. It is generally present at 30 to 45 degree north or north latitude basically. So it is generally at the subtropical level. So high influx of fresh water from the Nile and other rivers. It is true that Nile River is making its delta in Mediterranean Sea, but the influx of fresh water is influx of fresh water should decrease the amount of salinity and not increase the amount of salinity. So statement number 1 is wrong. High rates of evaporation in the Mediterranean basin. Yes, it is generally at the subtropical areas. More evaporation will be there, and evaporation is only just of water and not of the salt. So more evaporation is there, more salt are present in the less amount of water. So yes, salinity could be increased. So option B could be the answer. Constant mixing with the low salinity Black Sea. No, yes, it is true that Mediterranean Sea is attached with the Black Sea with different straits, but that's not the distinct reason for its higher amount of salinity. Presence of deep sea trenches that traps salt. No, there is no deep sea trenches there. Yes, Mediterranean plate is kind of sandwiched between between African and Eurasian plate. It has much volcanoes there, but it is not the reason for its high amount of salinity. So option B is the most appropriate option that we can mark as answer. Okay, so option B is your answer. Next is, which of the following salts is the second most abundant in sea water by weight? Generally, different salts are basically constituted the ocean water. First of all, sodium chloride is the most abundant, not the second most abundant. So the magnesium chloride, the second most abundant is there. It is around 10.9 percentage of salt is basically in the form of magnesium chloride, and around 78 percentage of salt is generally in the form of sodium chloride. So the answer will be your magnesium chloride. So the question can be asked in such manner as well. Also, it can ask that these are the four salts. Arrange these four salts in the increasing order of their concentration, in decreasing order of their concentration. So you should be prepared for these MCQs as well. Okay. So next is, in the context of innocent passage in territorial waters, which of the following is a mandatory requirement for submarines? Submarines are basically going below the water because they are generally used for the defense purposes, and they are basically for the watching of all the sovereignty and integrity of of a particular country, so that no enemy country could harm the Indian Navy or the Indian areas or any other particular country. So they must remain submerged to avoid detection. Innocent passage is basically that you are just responsible for this submarine, and this submarine is not meant for any harm to that particular country. So you should not you should not avoid you should not avoid the submergence or the emergence of basically that submarine in different areas. So you should not avoid detection. Okay, so first statement is wrong. They must navigate on the surface and show their flags. That is basically showing that this is the innocent passage and not harming any country. So flag should be there. They are prohibited from entering territorial waters under any circumstances. No, that could be of the enemy vessel, but it is generally not the innocent passage. They must pay a transit tax to the coastal state. No, that is basically different thing. It is economic in terms, but if we say that this is the innocent passage, basically means that they must navigate on the surface. They should be above the surface and not submerged under the water, and it should also show their flag that this submarine belongs to which country. Okay, so they should not remain submerged. They should be immersed above the water to basically show that this passage is innocent and not harming any kind of country or state as well. So statement B is your answer. Next is,